Howdy and salutations, this is Jessel, your critic, and I am here to give you guys an update of what's been going on. There's been a lot of things happening. I had a birthday. Lenton had a huge cruise and his 5-year anniversary with his wife. Michael had a massive headache. Plus, there's lots of depression and all sorts of stressful nonsense that was happening for a long time, and that's what's been keeping this episode from going on. So, we have I had a couple options here, and I didn't do any of them, and I feel bad about it, but I figure right now is the best way to let you guys know that we're sorry, first off, that we haven't been here. With No Mercy right around the corner, we haven't been keeping up to date with our news and giving you guys the regularly scheduled things you need, but I think it's all for the best. We all kind of needed a chance to recharge. And what we did during that recharge was make a bunch more content for you guys. So we've recorded the first episode of the new prediction show. That's the name of it. Michael doesn't like doing creative names, which is very funny considering that he is a writer. He just doesn't like making fun names. But that's fine. I got no problem with it. I'm not shaming him. I'm not shaming you, Michael. Anyway, we just made our new prediction show, which you'll be able to hear Saturday, just before the pay-per-view, and Michael hosted the whole thing, and we put it all together, and it's a really fun new additional thing we're going to do, instead of doing predictions in these broadcasts. On top of that, we recorded a bunch of new Broken Table Gaming, as well as getting all prepped for the next Broken Table commentary live for a undisclosed pay-per-view, because Michael is keeping it secret from Lenny and I until we record it on Monday, which it's currently Wednesday. So we got a lot of great things coming, and I wanted to let you guys know that. On top of that, we reached a big number milestone. Now, we celebrated our earlier milestone because my original goal when setting up this podcast was to get to SummerSlam, and we did it, and that's great. But 25 is a big deal, so I'm tired of having to keep everything from you guys, and as I'm sitting here and trying to edit this episode, I realized, oh man, I'm never going to get this out in time, and that's going to be another week without this going up. So I'm going to break the fourth wall here for you. You guys are going to get a complete and full, unedited episode 25. This is a special thing. You can hear us going through. We actually have to do a big Google session at one point because it's really fun, and you get to hear exactly how we do things. I'm not going to cut any of it, mostly because it's going to take me just so long to edit this episode, but also just so that you guys can actually see what's going on. I hope you like this. If not, I apologize. But this is the best and fastest way to get this to you, and we won't be doing this in the future. I will be on my game, and we'll get this out to you guys more regularly and more efficiently. But yeah, so let's all celebrate and have a great, fun episode 25 together. And thank you guys for listening to us. Hopefully very soon, Lenny and I are working on getting us on iTunes. So right now, if you could do us a favor, make sure you hit the little heart on SoundCloud or like it on YouTube, share it around, help us out, because word of mouth is what we need to get Broken Table commentary better and better for everybody. So yeah. I guess I should probably be done now, because this is going to be a long episode, and I hope you guys all enjoy. Thanks for sticking around. Cue the intro music.
Shut up and sit down.
Howdy and salutations. Welcome to Broken Table Commentary, a three-man creative discussion all about the greatest of fake sports, professional wrestling. Every week, we each bring a different topic to the table. The topics can be ridiculous or serious, opinion or factual, creative or not, whatever we feel like, and as always, topics for this week are in the description. On commentary, we have our Mark, the debonair diabetic dad, Lenton.
And in related dad news, due to being a dad, the wife and I had to change our phone plan, which means that my WWE t-shirt budget is over. But my last t-shirt I got that I'm wearing right now is my Superstar Billy Graham shirt, and it fits very well. Just wanted to share that with everybody.
Our historian, the migraine man, Michael.
Oh, that's me, and I just want to inform the world that I may have done some really bad writing in my life, but I have never stooped to having Superstar Billy Graham t-shirts.
And me, our critic, Jessel. You can follow us on SoundCloud, YouTube, and Facebook as Broken Table Commentary. Directly on at BrokenTableCommentary.com. On Twitter, at BrokenTableCom, C-O-M. Hopefully soon on iTunes and a billion other places as well. New episodes are broadcast every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode number 25, Hightop Table. Happy anniversary, everybody. We did it. 25. That's a big one. Woo!
It's the 25th anniversary.
Well, if we use WWE's numbering system, absolutely.
That was so stupid.
And my 5-year wedding anniversary is tomorrow, and Jessel just had a wedding anniversary too.
Oh,
I did last month.
When's your wedding anniversary, Michael?
it was 7 years in July there.
Oh, so that's still close.
Uh-huh.
That's cool.
So technically it's our 11-year anniversary in 3 weeks.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, because we met the weekend that John Cena won the title, and then he still had the belt 13 months later. Oh, man.
That's a way to measure love right there.
But yes, I've been so unwell this week that I haven't seen any wrestling or seen any wrestling news. So if Jessel or Lenny tell me that The Rock became president, I would have no way of knowing. Well, actually, I could just check it, but I'm assuming that their news section here, they're not going to throw fake news on me to trick me in my ill state.
Well, I do want to ask, now that we're at episode 25, what is everyone's favorite thing now that we're 25 episodes in? What's your favorite memory from doing Broken Table Commentary? Or is that too much of a surprise question?
No, that's fine for me.
My favorite thing is the running joke of the Rumble in the Cell.
Hey!
That's my favorite thing of all so far.
And I'm waiting for the punchline when it actually happens. I don't know what my favourite thing is. The fact that it's still going on and neither of you have sent hitmen to Scotland to get rid of me. I don't know.
I sent a hitman, but I sent him there just to give you a migraine, not to get rid of you.
Damn it, Larry, I knew it was you.
I think my favorite thing is the thing I like about all critics of all critical shows is that after a while you start to get their taste, so that show has its own unique little brand. So then you can trust their brand because you know what you think of their taste. Like if I was talking with Michael about this with Ebert, with Siskel and Ebert. Ebert had a particular flavor to his criticism, and that's good, because that meant if he was talking about a thing that I knew I disagreed with him on, if he said he hated it, I knew I'd probably like it. You know, same kind of thing. And I like that Lex Luger has shown up a billion times, that we won't shut up about Mr. Perfect, that we won't stop talking about Owen Hart. You know, there's these wrestlers that are I honestly think are underrated as a whole. And the three of us rate them highly, which are making them feel like our all-stars. And I think that's neat. I think that's really cool. I think that's cool. Probably my favorite.
That's a way better answer.
I thought your answer was really good.
I just like to laugh.
And Michael had my original answer, so I had to come up with a new one.
Well, as long as you don't tell me which one of us you think is Gene Siskel, that's fine.
I got dibs on Roper. So we do have some actual breaking news.
Oh,
Yeah. Sports Illustrated has reported that Anthem Sports is trying to get rid of GFW/Impact Wrestling as fast as they can.
really?
They just sent Jeff Jarrett. They had him on indefinite suspension with pay to get him out of the boardroom meetings, claiming erratic behavior. But then they had this emergency meeting. And Sports Illustrated is reporting that Anthem Sports is trying to sell the company. The report says that they were quote hemorrhaging funds, and that Anthem had to kill the Fight Network just to finance, almost kill Fight Network to finance GFW. Because they believe that Jarrett still owns GFW, this means that Anthem is just selling Impact Wrestling. So we don't know quite what's going on with the future of the company, but with so many people jumping ship recently, and this Jeff Jarrett thing, and now a legitimate news source reporting this. It's not just Dirt Sheet. This is Sports Illustrated. This is a big deal. We might be looking at the death or absorption of GFW Impact Wrestling.
What a day that would be.
That would surely be a sign of the end of days. If they actually went down. But man, who knew a company whose response to sort of copyright and stuff with the Hardys was basically, yeah, but your mum would be so bad at money stuff.
Yeah, who'd have thunk it?
Oh,
So if you were in that boardroom meeting and you were like, "Hey, we got to sell this off," who would you sell to? Just off the top of your head, what would you do if you were in this terrible situation or wonderful situation? I don't know. I shouldn't make a judgment call on how much they like this situation.
well, there's two options there. The sane one and the TNA one. The sane one would be to take up any offer that McMahon put for the video library so that he could make money selling like the best of Samoa Joe now that he's got access to his stuff, or Kurt Angle or whoever. The TNA one is to try and think of someone with lots of money in wrestling who's insane, and my immediate thoughts go to Inoki because remember he tried to promote stuff in North Korea, so taking over TNA is slightly less insane.
Yeah,
I agree. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, as long as they're not gonna bring everybody over and do another invasion angle and all that stuff and try and do the whole GFW titles. If they don't try and repeat the WCW thing, which I don't think they would, since Impact is, it is Impact. I had to make sure that was the right name for it now, since Impact is so much smaller than WCW was at the time. I don't think they would do that. So yeah, I'd just buy out the library and hope that everybody gets a job somewhere.
The real question I wonder is if Billy Corgan, who was formerly attached to Save TNA and got so pissed off with Jeff Jarrett and with Anthem that he was like, fuck it, and he left. I wonder if Billy Corgan might come back and try to save it again. It's also possible, because Ring of Honor is growing, that they could, Ring of Honor could come in and grab it. But I'm with you guys. I think selling, if nothing else, sell the tape library to the WWE. I think that'd be a very smart maneuver.
I mean, could they make their own little streaming service just with the tapes that they have, and then just get rid of any new content? Like, decide we're not going to make anything new, but let's put out all the stuff we have in a library?
No, the streaming service thing, that kind of thing, takes way more capital to start up than they have access to. I forget how much it was. When the WWE was going through making the network, that number got thrown around and how much it actually costs to create and maintain that kind of thing. It is a lot of money.
Gotcha.
And they do not have it.
It would just be a shame if because there's some good stuff, if it all got lost and there's no way to see any of it.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% positive that they won't let their tape library burn to the ground. But Jeff Jarrett's a little bit of a crazy man. And that Anthem Owl is even crazier, so who knows?
It'll probably find a way to survive. It always does.
I know, right? We're so jaded because this kind of report has come up so often. But they're coming more frequently, more rapidly, and more dangerously, I guess.
It'll be something
in the past year or two.
It'll be something ridiculous that no one thought about, like a hockey team and Tyson Tomko put together their money and buy a TNA.
I'd love it if Tomko was the new president of TNA. He gets rid of the GFW guys and brings back TNA.
Here's a sobering thought to think about, Jessel and Lenny. See, when WCW was as old as TNA, it had been dead for 2.5 years.
Oh, sad.
Wow, really?
Yep. 88 to 2001, and TNA's been going since 2002.
Wow.
It really is the company that just wouldn't die.
It really is. It's the cockroach of wrestling.
And in fairness, I don't want wrestling companies to die because I like wrestlers having jobs. Well, I like them having paid jobs. I don't know if TNA's got around to the whole paying part of the job yet, but
well, Tomko Nonstop Action is going to be the best TNA of all, so.
Yes, Tomko Nonstop Action.
Oh, that makes me happy.
Change it to NTA. It's just nonstop Tomko episodes. Every episode is 2 hours of Tomko wrestling and promoing. He's the new Hogan.
He was always the new Hogan. I have a thing open for something later in the show, and it's just the first name I saw when I looked over there was Tyson Tomko. I could have gone with Tajiri taking over the company, but I saw Tyson Tomko, so I'm glad.
Hey, Tajiri's run a company before. I'd be good with that. Smash was actually pretty alright.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, he went to Japan and he started his own little company, Smash, and he immediately turned heel on the first episode, and he's always been a babyface. So he turns heel, and then he starts, because in Japanese tradition, a lot of guys all caps their names when they're heels. So he was Tajiri, and he was just reviled. It was amazing. It was so good.
That's cool. I like Tajiri.
Yeah, it didn't go over very well because he brought all of his American sensibilities to Pudo and to the Japanese style, and the Japanese fans, they're like, all right, I guess. But that's not what they prefer. So it didn't quite go over, but it went for a while. It had some great matches, some great ladies in it. I don't believe there is any other news unless you got something, Linton.
Trying to think. I guess not. That's a shame. Nothing big. I guess next Tuesday's SmackDown is pretty loaded. We can mention that.
That's true, Vince McMahon.
3 huge, no, I don't want to use the word huge, but 3 title matches on a episode of SmackDown. Vince McMahon's going to be there to deal with Kevin Owens, so that should be a really big deal. If people listening aren't following SmackDown, I would suggest checking that out. They like to throw a pay-per-view quality SmackDown on every now and then.
Yeah, especially in the long droughts.
Yeah,
because there's a drought between SmackDown pay-per-views. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So out of those 3 title matches, we have Usos versus New Day in a street fight, and then Natty versus Naomi, and AJ Styles versus Ty Dillinger. Do you guys think any of the titles change hands?
Well, Ty Dillinger's not winning the US title. That's fairly sensible.
I could see Ty Dillinger winning the U.S. title. Because that would get AJ to move over to Jinder. I mean, after Jinder's done with Nakamura, but that could lead to that. So I could see it. It's not like a 50-50. It's like a 20% chance that Ty Dillinger could pull it off, but I could see it.
I feel they're keeping AJ with the US title now so that he can win the Rumble, and that's how they'll have Nakamura dethrone Jinder eventually, and they'll build to AJ that way with AJ as the chaser.
All right.
I like that.
Because then they can have AJ do all the promos and stuff as the challenger for the belt.
Mm-hmm.
But who did you say? What was the women's match?
Natty Naomi.
Natty Naomi. How far are we from the next SmackDown pay-per-view? Is it quite a far way away?
It's a good bit.
Good
Yeah.
bit. Cash in?
That's what I'm thinking. We've had James cost her cash-ins or drop the case or reveal her plans. She breaks up with him. She slaps him, says you have to do it my way. It seems like they're setting up for now. She can do it her way and she can put her plan in motion next week and actually get the cash in. So I'm definitely on board with that.
Did they split up in SmackDown? Because that cements it. It's a ruse. They're going to cash in.
Well, they actually split up and got back together in the same episode.
Yeah. He had to promise he would do whatever she said and do it all her way.
Then she kissed him and slapped him.
It was hot.
So it's not Boss Man lifting up the briefcase then. Well, see, that makes me more convinced that AJ will retain as well, because I have a feeling the tag titles might change because the tag titles always change hands on something. And then there's a good chance of a cash-in, which would have a title change. So someone has to retain. Unless they change all the belts in one night.
They could do that. They could change them all back after SummerSlam. I guess not changing them back. Ty Dillinger didn't have it.
If all the belts change on SummerSlam, and when SmackDown coming after all those title changes at SummerSlam, I'm going to be looking down that creative roster and looking for the man his name is an anagram of Vince Russo.
I think it sounds cool, so that's a compliment to Vince Russo. Which he deserves a lot of compliments. But that's all the wrestling news I have.
I have no wrestling news. I haven't even seen the
Screen
Classic stuff yet. Or I don't even know who wins the cage match on Raw, but I'm assuming it was good because Big Show and Braun had good matches early in the year. So
Big Show did a top rope elbow. He hasn't done one of those in years.
Oh, cool.
Decades, I think.
I look forward to seeing it at some point. But
Well, let's go ahead and get on to our first topic then.
alright. That's mine, isn't it? Sorry.
Yep, that's you, boy.
Right, cool. Right, what I was wondering about was underrated pay-per-views. Now, several pay-per-views always get a mystique through one way or the other. For example, no one, even you fans, have heard of the 95 King of the Ring for how bad it was. And even people willing to try and reappraise stuff like myself go back to it and go, Christ, it's dreadful. And there's other shows, like, for example, Backlash 2000, that have stood the test of time and they are lauded in the fan circles as being great. They usually, when someone they really wanted to win a belt, WrestleMania 30 is another great example because of Daniel Bryan winning the belt. But what I'm always far more interested in are sort of underrated shows, that being shows that we watched and we really liked, and we can go back to them and really like them, but which no one ever seems to talk about. Um, and what I asked Lenny and Jessel to do was to come up with two shows which they really liked, or they thought were far better than their reputation, that nobody particularly talked about, that they felt you should talk about. So, um, snaking it this way, I wanted to change my usual way of doing this, and I'll go me first, then Jessel, then Lenny, and Lenny, then Jessel, then me. And the reason for that is the last two times I've done this, me and Jessel have accidentally taken all of Lenny's answers, and he's not had anything to talk about. So I'm hoping this way, uh, Lenny will actually get, he'll go, oh, this is something we can all agree with him, if that makes sense.
I'll definitely be able to with that, so I'm good.
Yeah, because I felt so bad last week when essentially me and Jessel basically took all your Randy Savage matches from you.
I thought it was fun. Unless you and Jessel have the two matches I have as your first, so we'll see what happens.
Well, so the first pay-per-view that I came up with for underrated was from 2000, and it's fully loaded that year from July 2000. It was a fun show in which they used it to try and kind of push new people into the main event. To possibly help if one of the new people had won any of their big matches, but you can't have everything. It was a show headlined by The Rock versus Chris Benoit. Um, but it had a last man standing match for Triple H and Chris Jericho, uh, which was really great, and it built into their whole long storyline, uh, which we talked about before. And it also had Undertaker v Kurt Angle, which, probably one of the weaker matches in the card because both are just coming back from minor injuries. But beyond that, it's a card which had a really fun sprint match with Taz and Al Snow. Probably one of Taz's best pay per view matches, and one of Al Snow's best because he was, he didn't have much opportunities at this point in time. He's got a European title match between Eddie Guerrero and Perry Saturn, which is probably Perry Saturn's best match in the WWF. He didn't give any chances, obviously. Um, it's got an awesome cage match for the IC title between Val Venus and Rikishi, which people ought to have seen if they haven't. Those two had a surprisingly blood feud at the time, and this was the feud ender. Um, um, and it has a fairly fun opener between the Hardy Boys and Lita in a six-person intergender tag match against Stratus, Test, and Albert. So all in all, it was it was a good card which pushed the right people, and kind of gave a hint of what WWF was going to be like in the years ahead. And I think it's mostly forgotten now. So that's my first one.
I know there's a fully loaded I didn't see. Is this the fully loaded that I've never seen? Because I was just talking to Michael recently and telling him all the pay-per-views I've never seen before, and there was a fully loaded on there that he was all, oh no, that's a really good pay-per-view. You should have seen that one, and that may have been it because I don't really recognize this one very much.
Was that not fully loaded in '99? The one with
99.
Acolytes, Hardys, and Austin Taker, First Blood.
So I have seen this one. I just don't remember it very well. So I guess I agree that it must be that it must not. I must agree with the general population that it's not that big of a deal pay-per-view.
But yeah, looking at the card, I would recommend 1, 2, 3, 5, at least 5 of 8 matches on the card has been worth your watch. So yeah, I would definitely say it's an unfairly forgotten pay-per-view. So.
Jessel?
Am I next?
Mm-hmm.
I get Michael put me on blast and I didn't realize it, and now I'm worried. I had a hard time with this one because I didn't know what underrated, what qualified. So Backlash 2000 was like one of mine, and Michael used that as an example of everyone knows that pay per view is great.
Sorry.
And I was just like, oh no, everybody knows Backlash 2000's great. I screwed up.
It's true.
I didn't know. Well, it was underrated for me personally then, because I certainly didn't know.
You can talk
It depends
about
on how you define underrated.
I wanted to define it the right way. I apparently would have to define it a bullcrap way. I was looking for more and more, trying to come up with another one. But I'm gonna go with it. This was one of mine. I think the thing that makes me like Backlash 2000 the most is that apparently, lots of people say it's great and that's awesome, but the matches that I liked the most when I watched it are like the matches that nobody talks about or thinks about. So, like Dean Malenko, Scotty 2 Hotty is amazing. That match for the light heavyweight championship is amazing. The crowd is so into it. And Dean Malenko is so good at what he does. And Scotty 2 Hotty is way better than people give him credit for. That match really, really good. TNA versus the Dudleys was great. Bossman and Bull Buchanan versus APA was great. Eddie versus S.A. Rios is great. I hear people talk about Edge and Christian versus Degeneration X. I hear about Benoit Jericho. I hear about The Rock Triple H. But I don't hear about any of the other ones. Even the Big Show Kurt Angle segment where Big Show's coming out and pretending to be Hulk Hogan. Because it was comedy Big Show time. That's really, really funny. It was really good. The hardcore is what, 6-way? That was super fun. With of course, Crash Holly is wonderful. Everybody likes Crash Holly. But it is if you were like me and didn't know this was good, then you're before the curve. And go check it out so you can be on the curve with everybody. Because I certainly didn't know.
I can't argue with you. It's a great pay-per-view. You could argue that it should have been the WrestleMania that year because it does finish all the stuff they should have done 4 weeks earlier.
Yeah, I was reading about that. Most people suggest that the idea was that they saved all that stuff because they knew this card would sell and WrestleMania would sell. So just go ahead and split the two up and let WrestleMania sell and then have a great Backlash too.
I mean, financially it made perfect sense because they made a whole lot of money out of those two shows, but I'm talking narratively. Oh, and that's why we're all poor. It's, I always watched, whenever I was watching that at the time, I thought, wow, they could really use Dean Malenko against all these underused light heavyweights that they never used, and no, that's the only time they ever gave him versus one of these people 13 minutes.
It is indeed. And it's unfortunate. There's a beautiful spot where Dean Malenko counters a superplex into a super DDT. It's amazing.
It just makes you wonder what a 13-minute Dean Malenko Taka Michinoku match would have been like, but we never found out. But yes, it's a really good show, and if people have forgotten how good the Malenko match or how Crash Holly is, then yes, they are underrated parts, so I agree.
Yeah, I think doing the fact that half I guess you call it the mid-card matches on the show are underrated was a really smart way to go about discussing that. That's really cool.
Oh, yay. Hooray.
I wish I would have thought to do it that way because I had a hard time coming up with... I mean, the topics this week overall are very stressful. And I had a hard time coming up with, well, okay, so how do you define underrated? Because I don't really do the message board online community things. And you can look up buy rates and how much money each event made, but I mean, they still make lots of money. Oh. So then I looked up, like, okay, have these matches been on DVDs of wrestlers' best ofs? So it's hard to come up with how to judge underrated. But with that said,
I was counting world champions in it, not just in WWF, but in general. And over half of the competitors are world champions. Like, that's insane. That's really cool.
yeah.
Sorry.
But my first one was pretty easy to judge as underrated because it was an experimental gimmick pay-per-view, and they did one, and they never did it again. And I considered it, considering all the gimmick pay-per-views WWE has done, this one is one of the ones that I thought went over fantastically and had a ton of potential, but it was never revisited. So I think I judge this one being underrated by WWE Creative, and that is the WWE Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view. Basically all the main title matches, the WWE Divas Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, and the WWE Championship were going to be defended in Fatal 4-Way matches, and that was what made the pay-per-view special. Wasn't as cool as the Championship Scramble, just throw that back out there. That is one of the coolest, so I just thought of that. I really wish I would have put that pay-per-view on here because it falls into
Unforgiven 2008.
Yeah, it falls into the same criteria. But I'm not going to change my answers because I already have them down. But that is a great, another great example of WWE not trusting in themselves and underrating themselves, because that was great. But Fatal 4-Way is also a great one. Each Fatal 4-Way match has a different flow to it, which is tough because Fatal 4-Way matches, according to several wrestlers who write books, will tell you that Fatal 4-Way matches are the hardest matches to book, and they are the hardest matches to be in. So Alicia Fox, and in every single Fatal 4-Way you get a new champion, which was fun. Alicia Fox wins hers by doing the whole stealing. Someone hits their finisher and she pushes them out of the ring and takes the pinfall. Rey Mysterio wins his by being the tough fighting underdog, and Sheamus wins his Fatal 4-Way with the help of the Nexus. So every single Fatal 4-Way had a cool different thing going on for it. You had the Usos and the Hart Dynasty in a tag team match. It was a 6-man match, six-person match, not a 6-man match, because you had Tamina and Natalya. This was I think this is the Usos' first pay-per-view match, but it's a really good match. Kofi and Drew McIntyre put on a close to 20-minute opener that's just fantastic. One of McIntyre's really good performances. Jericho puts over Evan Bourne, which is another really good match. Every match on that, even though the Women's Fatal 4-Way is not great, but every match on the entire pay-per-view is good or great. Even Miz and R-Truth is really good. It goes close to 15 minutes too, which is weird to say. But the Miz has always been good, but R-Truth did really good in this match as well. I'm just looking at the card and it's making me all happy.
Was that the match where Jericho caught Evan Bourne with the code breaker out of the Airborne?
I wish I would have had the time to rewatch it because I know they had the match on Raw as well, and I could not remember because I was thinking it too. It's
probably the Raw match.
Which one it happened on. I would think that that's the one he catches him because I would think he'd win after that. And Evan Bourne beats him in this one. But it's a really good show. The Fatal 4-Way thing was a cool way of doing it. It's cooler than you have to wrestle in Hell in a Cell, which I think is silly. Or the table, ladders, and chairs. You have to have a tables match and a chairs match and a ladder match, then the TLC match. I thought the Fatal 4-Way was very much underrated, and I would have liked it to stick around for more than one pay-per-view.
I remember nothing of that show. But
I remember liking it.
Apparently, the Airborne Codebreaker combo happened on Raw.
Makes sense.
I had no idea they wrestled on Raw. I vaguely remembered them wrestling on pay-per-view. But yeah, definitely if it's such an interesting pay-per-view for you and one of your co-hosts can barely remember it, it's certainly underrated.
Which is the same thing that happened with the one you suggested, so that's fun. Alright, and then my next one, God, since I'm not going to do Unforgiven 2008, how do I define underrated for this one? None of the matches are, besides one of them, I guess, are really ever talked about. It's a concept for a pay-per-view that sticks around for a little while longer, but this one started it, and I don't think it gets the credit because it was the best of all of them, and then it went downhill from there. But I have the original Taboo Tuesday as my other underrated pay-per-view. Taboo Tuesday is a pay-per-view in which every single match has a stipulation as determined by a fan vote. So the fans got to vote on different things, like what kind of match type Randy Orton and Ric Flair would be in, or who would fight Triple H, and the two people who didn't get the votes would then be a tag team and get a tag title shot, what weapon you would be. And then, of course, during this time in wrestling, which is the bad part of this pay-per-view, this is during the we don't give a shit about our women, so you had stipulations like, should Christy Hemme versus Carmella be a lingerie pillow fight or an evening gown match? So you did have some of those duds on it, but it's, besides the shitty women things, it's a really fun pay-per-view. You had the Chris Jericho IC title defense, where basically, I think it's, 5, 10, 15, there's 15 different names that could have been voted, and Jericho swears up and down that he had no idea who was going to get voted until they got voted. And Shelton Benjamin wins the vote, and they go out there and they have to put the match together on the spot. And it's a really, really great match. Really fantastic with Jericho and Shelton Benjamin. Even the Divas Battle Royal, which they get put in schoolgirl outfits, besides the fact that they are in schoolgirl outfits, it's a pretty good match. And for a lot of those girls, they're actually more covered in schoolgirl outfits. But I guess that's not the point. But it's a good battle royal. They don't wrestle dumb because they're in schoolgirl outfits. It's a fun battle royal. They do the right thing with Eugene. If people don't remember Eugene, he was a mentally challenged wrestler who was the nephew of Eric Bischoff, and you don't put that kind of character in a real match, so they put him in a silly gimmick thing with Eric Bischoff. And looking back on it now, we're like, oh, that's offensive. But at the time, Eugene was super over. People were obsessed with Eugene. There were signs everywhere. There were shirts everywhere. People gave him huge reactions. So they put him in a loser has to have their head shaved match with Eric Bischoff, and that got Bischoff's head shaved. And that was how you should have used Eugene. It was silly, but it was how you should have used him. The Edge and Chris Benoit didn't get the votes for the title match, so they had to be a tag team. And Edge was so mad. This is when he makes his big heel turn, which leads to his amazing heel stuff in 2005 and beyond. But Chris Benoit still wins the tag titles without Edge after he leaves him at ringside. So Chris Benoit does this awesome stuff, and Shawn Michaels and Triple H have a really great match where Shawn Michaels is selling his bum knee the entire match, and it's one of Michaels' best acting. He's selling the entire match, and he's doing a great job at it. The only highlight of Randy Orton as a babyface is this Ric Flair match, and Ric Flair just puts him over great and gives him a big old handshake at the end of it. There's so many good spots and important spots to the year of 2004 in this pay-per-view, and I think it gets forgotten. So that is my other one, Taboo Tuesday. And it was on a Tuesday night, which is important to remember.
It was useful given the name. There's a funny story about you saying how good Shawn Michaels' selling is in that match. The whole, you know how people always say, "Oh, the WWE rigged their fan votes," but in reality, they try and manipulate fans so that, for example, Ric Flair comes out and goes, "Please vote for me in a cage match," and then lo and behold, cage match wins. The whole setup in Raw, they had set it up so they were assuming that the fans would vote Benoit into the main event, and therefore they could have Edge turn on Shawn, who was legit injured in the tag title match, and Shawn and Edge feuded after that point. However, the fans decided that actually they really like Shawn Michaels, and they put him in the main event because they didn't know he was injured, and they had Benoit and Edge in the tag title match. So all of that selling you're talking about is actually Shawn Michaels legit struggling with an actual injury.
That's just totally badass then.
And they basically had to reschedule all of their storylines for the night on the fly based on that fan vote, and actually given that, I think they did quite well.
Yeah, and it surprised me that they thought Benoit was going to get the vote because he got the least amount of votes out of the three. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh,
That's pretty sad. But it all, I love that pay-per-view. And I love how everything worked out. And I love the concept of the fan vote. Because I believe it. I know a lot of the internet says it's all rigged and whatnot. I don't believe that is true.
I mean, I forget a lot of the stuff that happened in the middle of it, but I always wonder what it must have felt like to be Shelton Benjamin that night. It's like, there are, 20 people up for fan vote for the IC belt, so anyone could have got it, and then he's up there, and not only that, but in the middle of the ring, it's decided he's going to win the belt.
Mm-hmm.
He had no time to think that over, basically. That must have been mental.
It's definitely a better treatment than not being included on SmackDown this past Tuesday, which I'm not happy about. FYI.
So, Jessel, what have you got apart from nightmares because of my wording of this question?
I never saw Taboo Tuesday. I'll have to go watch it. This other one was the easiest for me because when you think underrated, I immediately think TNA because TNA is rated poorly. So, what's the best TNA pay-per-view? And I went and I tried to find and watched a bunch. I even found a DVD at my local Goodwill, and I was super excited to have a random TNA DVD. But I was just going through. I don't know if this is considered one of the best TNA pay-per-views or not. But regardless, TNA is not considered very highly. So I like bringing this one up. It is the only TNA Unbreakable pay-per-view. But TNA Unbreakable in 2005 has an awesome card, has legitimately one of the greatest matches of all time of that era in it, and it has a bunch of other great matches in it too. It's headlined by AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe for the X Division Championship, and that match is phenomenal. It's amazing. Raven versus Rhino in a Raven's Rules match was a really good match. That was a super fun one. I really liked Abyss versus Sabu because I enjoy both. Well, I enjoy Sabu, and every now and again Abyss just gets the right guy. And I thought that was a really fun match. Hilariously, there's a NXT preview match. It happened 12 years before it happened on NXT. Austin Aries defeats Roderick Strong. I think that's very funny. I know, right? Isn't that great? It's a weird little time capsule to look at this 2005 pay-per-view that I know I'd never seen. TNA was definitely below my radar. But man, the last two matches are just really phenomenal. I know a lot of people don't like Raven, or a lot of people don't like Rhino, but I think they had a great match.
I've only seen one match from that card, and it's the main event, which last time I checked was considered the greatest match in TNA history. It might still be, I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I've not seen the Raven Rhino match, although I do like both of them. I'm a big Raven fan, and Rhino, he was great in ECW, just killing everyone.
Rhino is severely underrated, I think, just in general.
Yeah, I've also only seen the main event. TNA had it up on their YouTube page for the longest time. So I don't know if people could still pop over and see that, because I know it's harder for us, the listeners, to access TNA pay-per-views. But you can always check the YouTube. But that is a great match.
I saw on a Best of Samoa Joe DVD, which I picked up at a charity shop so long ago that Kurt Angle hadn't debuted in TNA yet. So that's a while ago. But yeah,
Yes, that match is still on YouTube, just so everybody knows. Sorry.
Well, it is a really good match. And it's kind of interlinked with some of their best storytelling.
Yep.
But no, that's a great choice, Jessel, because I wouldn't even thought of a TNA pay-per-view. And you could argue, given TNA's reputation, that anything that's great over there would be underrated by default. So,
That was my thought process.
yeah, well, there are some really good answers there. And for future reference, see if you don't understand the wording of my questions. I'm on Facebook. You can ask me.
Nah, it's too easy.
Oh, I
I know what underrated means. I just didn't know that Backlash 2000 was considered one of the best pay-per-views of all time. I had no clue.
Oh well, it was you took an interesting angle at it and it worked, so that's the main thing. But
Scotty 2 Hotty versus Dean Malenko. Watch it. It is phenomenal.
yes, it is. Oh, right. So that just leaves my favourite pay-per-view of all time, which unfortunately no one talks about. Probably because it happened in 1998 and very little of. Oh, there wasn't much. There was one title match in total on the show. So that's probably why people forget about it. But I think I've mentioned it before because it is Breakdown in Your House from September 1998. A fun show which is headlined by Stone Cold defending his WWF title against Undertaker and Kane in a triple threat match. But the main event per se, even though it happens in the middle of the card, is The Rock v Ken Shamrock v Mankind in a triple threat cage match for the Women's Contendership. This is an interesting match which goes 30 minutes, and essentially it's got The Rock on the cusp of superstardom. He just dropped the IC title a month earlier. Ken Shamrock, who is he is a bit lost in the card and he's about to have a big heel turn, and the fans sense this coming because they boo the living shit out of him for most of the match. And Mankind, who is doing his comedy goofball, technically a heel, buddied up to the McMahons, but doesn't realise they're going to stab him in the back thing. And they're in Canada, and Canada adore Foley. And this match, basically, you go into it with 3 upper mid-carders, and you come out of it with 2 main eventers. It's always loved that. Otherwise in the card you have an Owen Hart Edge match, which I talk about a lot, but it's a really great match.
It is.
You've got Al Snow and Scorpio V2 match, which only goes about 6 minutes, but as we've already mentioned on this show, Scotty Dugotti was a very underrated talent, and there were the right people. Scorpio and Al Snow are both really good. It's a fun sprint. You've got Mark Merrill v Draws, where Draws shows bits of talent, which unfortunately he was never able to do much of because of his accident a year later. Bradshaw Vader, which is basically 2 big guys beating the shit out of each other, which is and a DXV Jeff Jarrett and Southern Justice, that's former Godwins, 6-man, which is shocking because Billy Gunn's in it and it's reasonably bearable for a match. So, this is a show which also has a Val Venus Dustin Runnels storyline that's bloody hideous, and a D'Lo Brown Gangrel match, which is as good as it sounds. But, with a show with 3 good to great matches and a bunch of stuff which would showcase the WWE in the future, I think this is a really good show, and it's always worth me watching, as I found time and time again. And I've also found out through my many years as a wrestling fan that no one bloody remembers it ever even taking place.
Yeah, I had not seen this pay-per-view until we talked about Owen Hart. I guess it was the first time we did the Hall of Fame, and you told me about this match, the match between him and Edge, and I watched it, so I watched the entire pay-per-view. and before that, I had never watched it. So yeah, I like and remember several of the things. I definitely remember that cage match. That cage match is very wonderful. And I really like the Vader Bradshaw match because I like Vader a whole bunch.
Yeah, it's Vader heading out the company, so he just has a good old fashioned stiff fest with Bradshaw for the hell of it. But yeah, I mean, as I say, you enjoyed it. You essentially, apparently, you only saw it because I told you about the pay-per-view. So it's it's a really good show. More people should watch it. That's a hint to you listeners out there. Haha.
Maybe we'll BTC live some of these. That'd be fun.
Who knows? We might one day. Haha.
Haha.
But no, there's a bunch of good shows for folks to listen to there. I think that was an interesting topic. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, next, topic number 2.
Topic number 2. That's mine. Bop it up. My topic is to create a WWE produced DVD for a wrestler that doesn't have one. I asked my fellow compadres to name the DVD, pick a host, and list a few of the matches and segments that you'd include on it. So, I'll go first because I'm already talking and I don't know how to stop. Mine is Cesaro Pound for Pound is my DVD. And it is hosted by Cassius Ohno, who is also known as Chris Hero, who was a best bud and tag team partner with Cesaro throughout his comeuppance in the world of wrestling. So the DVD would have all about... I never know how much WWE can get footage of other companies because it seems to differ from the person's DVD. It's not like a specific amount of what they can get. But you gotta talk about him because he's wrestled like basically everywhere in the entire world and every company. For those who don't know, Cesaro is a man of many companies. So you got to talk about that. He had a winning streak in the FCW, which I didn't know about until I was researching him. So you would talk about his winning streak in the FCW. The matches would include his U.S. title win against Santino Marella, his U.S. title Clash of the Champions match with Adrian Neville. Cesaro used to be called Antonio Cesaro, for those who aren't aware, when he first popped into the WWE. That's why I had that mix up in my brain. That match I was just talking about took place on an NXT episode. It was a fantastic match. You got to have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal win. You could do a segment on the Cesaro section when they were trying to make it seem like people were actually making all those signs that were popping up all over the place. It says Cesaro section that the WWE had actually created. You do the U.S. Open Challenge match with Cesaro and John Cena, which is a fantastic Cesaro match as well. You could do a whole bit about all his different tag team partners, both in the WWE with Jack Swagger and Tyson Kidd and Sheamus, and then outside the WWE with everybody. You could pick out a bunch of the best of 7 series with Sheamus, because it actually turned out to be really good. I don't know if I complained about it on this show, because I don't know if I guess that would be before this show. I guess I just complained about it to Jessel that I was very tired of, oh man, I don't want to see Sheamus versus Cesaro anymore. But then they did it, and then it formed into them having to be a tag team, and then they became the Bar, and it all went so smoothly. And then I would put the Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Hardys 30-minute Iron Man match on there. So those are a few of the segments and matches that I would put on Cesaro pound for pound.
Yeah, I like Cesaro, so I didn't know he didn't have a DVD out yet.
He does not.
But then that was...
Or at least I really hope he doesn't, because I looked it up and I couldn't find one.
Well, if he doesn't, he should. That was one of the difficulties here, trying to work out who didn't have a DVD. So every time I thought, oh, so-and-so, it turned out, oh, they actually had a DVD out. Which almost made me want to cheat and say that the DVD they should release is 27 DVD collection of most of the good bits of Mr. Perfect. Only
He's got a
27
DVD.
DVDs so that they can bring out a sequel, obviously.
Obviously. Well, who did you pick, Michael?
I can't get over that you were trying to find a way to weasel in a second Mr. Perfect DVD as if he hadn't had one.
Oh, well,
It's an anthology.
I love it. I love it.
when the Mr. Perfect DVD came out, I was promoting it across all the forums at the time. This was like 6 months before it came out, it had been announced, and somebody on one of the forums, which I then got banned from, said, "Man, Michael, you love Mr. Perfect in as close away as I can say without it sounding LGBT." So I always took that as a compliment. Oh, and then I got banned. Actually, Mandy got me banned, but that's different. That's another story. What I went for in the end is Val Venus. So I was thinking, man, he had so many good matches. Most of them were on like Sunday Night Heat or SmackDown and that, and then he's been mostly forgotten now. So what they should do is they should get his CM Punk match, his Paul London match, and his Rikishi feud, and his IT title runs, and all of that kind of stuff, and they should all put it on the DVD and promote it and get people to watch it and appreciate them. I guess they'd call this "Hello, Ladies" because that was his catchphrase, and the best host would be Rikishi because that was his best feud. And the other folks that they could have there are dead, so Rikishi's the best option. And they already have got loads of matches. I mean, he was there for 11 years. And he was having, I seem to recall he even has a really good match for Charlie Haas. Well, that's unfair to Charlie Haas, because Charlie Haas was adequate. But, he was the gatekeeper for them in terms of if you can't have a good match with Val Venus, you've got no hope for ages. So there are probably lots of hidden gems that even I've forgotten about that they could fill a DVD or two up with. So yeah, Val Venus, that's a good option, in my opinion, of course.
That's a very good answer. I would buy a Val Venus DVD. As long as it's not going to have like a pop-up penis when I open it or something. Which I would assume it wouldn't.
You'd probably buy it if it did that.
No, I would. I'd buy it quicker.
It's true. I feel like a crazy person because both of those just don't hit my funny bone. I don't know why. Because I know they'll be good. I don't know. I feel like a bad wrestling fan.
I was going to give an answer there, and then I suddenly realized it might be your answer, so I've bit my tongue. So
I need to go back, and the best part about both of your ones, I know I've seen most of Cesaro's WWE stuff, but I know I definitely haven't seen most of Val Venus's. So I definitely need to go back and check out the stuff you guys have talked about that I didn't see. Maybe that would win me over. That'd be cool. So I do definitely think they're a good idea for DVDs because of that prospect. For me, I'm dying to have a Lance Storm collection. Give me a Lance Storm collection, please. Call it very, very serious, and it's a very, very serious DVD documentary hosted by Jericho. It'd be so good. I want it so bad. I picked out a handful of matches that I think would be great. You got to have him versus Jerry Lynn from November to Remember, ECW 98. His debut on WCW was amazing. The Canadian Rules match versus Mike Awesome at New Blood Rising 2000 was awesome. The penalty box match from Sin 2001 is so terrible that it has to be on the set. His one night stand match with Jericho 2005 is so good. And then I would, like Lenny, I'd want to try to get Ring of Honor stuff because Lance Storm, he's done with the big companies, but now he's just training people, and he's had some incredible matches outside of the company, and Ring of Honor has allowed WWE to use to have matches before. So I would love to get the Lance Storm Bryan Danielson, i.e. Daniel Bryan, match from Ring of Honor Better Than Our Best 2006. I watched that last night, and it's amazing. It is so freaking good. Arguably Lance Storm's best match of his career, which is super cool. I'd also get Lance Storm versus Chris Hero, who Lenny talked about, who's now Cassius Ohno. They had a match at Death Before Dishonor 7, July 25th, 2009. That match is also super duper good. But for me, I definitely, a segment that I think would be really cool, because I really like talking about the parts of wrestling that fans kind of don't really get to talk about or know very much, is about his whole training system. The Storm Wrestling Academy is incredibly prestigious at this point. There's so many. He teaches so many things. There's a great What Culture article from a guy who talked about what his experiences were being taught by Lance Storm. He did a 2-season reality show about training folks at his academy, which is really insightful and really cool. It's fun to watch. I watched all of that, but just a quick list of names of wrestlers that he's trained. While none of them have broken into the upper echelon, well, one of them has, but not in WWE. They've all are people known for incredible work rate. You can show clips from Tyler Breeze, including his FCW win, which was incredible. You can show Emma and all of her great matches. Peyton Royce is trained by Lance Storm, so you can show some of the iconic duo. And if they could somehow get access to Taya's matches, Taya Valkyrie from AAA or from Lucha Underground, she's trained by him and she's incredible. I think it'd be really cool to have that kind of wrap up the whole thing with a talking about all the great wrestlers he's trained. Sylvester Lafort, he trained, even though he didn't last long in the WWE. In NXT, I mean, he's a good wrestler. Just I love Lance Storm. I'll praise him till my dying day, and his great matches need to be seen.
Yeah, the idea of having matches from the people that he trained there to end it is fantastic. That's awesome. The whole idea is a really good one. I really like Lance Storm as well. Not as much as you like him, but I do like Lance Storm. And it is tough to, it's hard to find his matches. So.
Yeah, it is. The poor guy, he just like so many people when they came to WCW, they didn't know what to do with their characters because they didn't care about looking at what they had done previously, so they just kind of slapped them together, and his WWF run was just a pale comparison to what he had previously done, and it makes me sad. The Un-Americans were alright, though.
Oh, the Un-Americans were
Test, Regal, Lance Storm, Christian, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they got ended because Test wouldn't cut his hair.
Yeah.
It's just stupid backstage reason.
Especially because he did eventually cut his hair.
Although, yeah, a few weeks later, of his own accord. But the best thing is, apparently backstage when they said this, Test was like, "No, I'm not going to cut my hair short. I'd look like a dork." Turned to anyway, no offense, lads. Because obviously, remember, Lance Storm had the really short hair at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, that kind of hair would mean I'd have no chance with women. No offense, lads. It's like, this is a story that Lance Storm had retold years later. But
What cartoon is that?
Oh, can you hear Scotty?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, I can barely hear it. Hold on, I'll get her out of here.
It's not a big deal. I'm curious what she's watching.
Come here.
that's
too loud.
Coyote? I don't know. It comes up on the screen. Intermission. Oh man. Apparently there's rumours that Anthem thought that, you know, that whole thing that came out that they wanted to take 10% of all of Jeff Hardy's real life earnings.
Yeah.
There's rumours that they actually thought people would agree to that. Man, they're just so stupid for money.
Yep. I think it was a last ditch effort. I think they were doing it to try to save their company. Oh, the Hardys just put up a reaction to it all. Matt's reaction is hilarious. His is just the Hardys will outlast all, and then a video of him delete. That's very funny.
Oh.
I am back.
Oh.
Michael's got a wolf.
Goodness gracious. This whole Anthem thing, we don't need to look at that. Which of these DVDs would you find listeners buy? Why didn't we talk about Sid? I couldn't tell you. We should have.
Why didn't Jessel talk about Lex Luger? Because if I'd known he...
I thought he had a DVD, that's
Does
why.
he really? Oh, damn it. Then
No, I thought he did. I didn't do any research. I just assumed he had one and didn't do anything else because I knew Storm didn't have one.
He probably has a VHS tape, but I doubt he has a DVD.
That's old school. I'd
Yeah.
put that up on my wall.
There's
Staple it.
no DVD.
And of course,
But
Owen
let's
has one.
go ahead and move on to the third topic.
3.
This one's mine, and this will be the third round of our Broken Table Commentary Hall of Fame. If you haven't heard how we do with the Hall of Fame here, whoever brings it up, it's been me every time so far, but the other two guys are allowed to bring up the Hall of Fame whenever they want. We set up a theme for the Hall of Fame voting this time, and then the only rules in general are they have to be not retired, but they have to be doing very little within their field, which actually screwed us over as we talked about it in prep, because one of mine got cut, and Michael's like, oh, this would have been a shoe-in, but he's still working. It's like, oh, no! Like, that kind of thing. Like, that's important. Just like any good Hall of Fame, we want actually people who are retired. Each of us will bring 3 candidates to the Hall of Fame discussion. They each will fulfill the criteria of whatever the criteria set up by the person who made it is, and then they will say who the 3 people are, and then the other 2 members of Broken Table Commentary get to ask the nominator any questions they want about their 3 candidates. Then the 2 of them will pick the one person from their group of 3, and that person will be that. So Lenny will bring 3. Michael and I will pick one of his 3, and that will be his entry into the Hall of Fame. Then we'll do the same thing for Michael, and then they'll do the same thing for me. The only difference here is if all 3 of us have the exact same name on our list. If all 3 of us have one name, automatically in, and then we all go again, and we will have a total of 4 members in the Hall of Fame. If all 3 of us have 2 doubles, which hasn't happened yet, but could happen, then both automatically go in. Hall of Fame done. Good job, everybody. If all 3 of us have all the same 3, wow! Look at us, we're best friends. I finally have some. But the most important part here is because the first time we did this, we all had very much a lot to say about our guys. So we've streamlined it now. So you are not allowed to talk about your candidates in any way, shape, or form unless you are asked a question about them. And that's it. You guys good with the rules? You guys good to go?
Yeah, I think one of the people I have on my top 3 is ineligible. So, but
that's all right. We won't worry about it. I made a very hard one because one of the things. A little bit of backstory. Ultimate Warrior was my wrestling hero as a child growing up. Not Hogan, not anybody else. It was Ultimate Warrior was my guy. So when Warrior finally went in the Hall of Fame and he delivered his very long, rambly speech at the Hall of Fame, part of it was calling out the WWE for not honoring the unsung heroes of the company, the riggers and the guys who are the seamsters and the people who work for the company but never get any credit. Then Warrior unfortunately died. And they've now done the Warrior Award, but the Warrior Award is more tinged to how Dana Warrior, the Ultimate Warrior's wife, has it, and what Stephanie has branded it to be more about exceptional fans, which is a very good and honorable thing to have in the Hall of Fame as well. But the actual thing that Ultimate Warrior wanted is actually not being done. And I really wanted to do that. So I want our Hall of Fame to have some of these unsung heroes. So this is going to be a unsung heroes round. The unsung heroes are anybody who is connected to wrestling that is not known for being a wrestler, manager, or commentator, because all 3 of those get recognized regularly. And I want to talk about anybody else. So those are my 3, or those are the rules for this round. It was very hard because we try to find them retired and stuff. But I think this will be good. Hopefully, I hope so.
And for the listeners, I don't want we understand like the whole idea of giving praise to the people who didn't get praise throughout their careers is a great thing. It's just really hard. There's not like a database somewhere of here are people in the WWE who did things behind the scenes that are now retired. When you look up personnel, they give you current personnel. Like I thought of a lot of people that, okay, I wonder who did this at this certain time, and I just can't find that information. That's what made it so difficult.
Yep.
The information is just not there.
And we're going to do our best to try to find it, too, because I'm doing this has made me really want to find this information even harder, which is cool. I like that. It made me work harder. Who of you fellas would like to, sorry for my clickety-clackities, I got to make notes as we go. Who of you fellas would like to go first? Would you like me to go first to hear my 3? Or do you want to, what would you like?
I can go first because, I can go first.
Sure. Let's hear all our candidates first. So, Lenny, who are your 3 candidates?
My 3 candidates are Mean Gene Okerlund, Nick Patrick, and it just says the person responsible for the costumes in the golden era of wrestling. Now, if that person gets voted in, we will do whatever it takes to find that name.
All right. Michael, who are your 3? Who are your candidates?
Well, essentially, because I've really struggled to think of names, and obviously I've had this migraine which stops me thinking properly. What do you think? I came up with one name immediately. And then the other 2 I really struggled with, and I just came up with the one to spur. So Knowing my luck, they'll be the ones I'm asked to defend en masse. So the name that came to me immediately was Chris Kresge, and the other two to fill out free are Toots Mont and Mean Gene Okerlund.
Hey.
My three are Mean Gene Okerlund, which means we have an all three-way boy, and Mean Gene Okerlund is in our Hall of Fame, which is wonderful. Good job, Mean Gene.
He's the man.
You did it. Nick Patrick.
We almost got a three-way boy.
We almost. And then Michael Buffer.
Huh.
If you don't know him, he's the Let's Get Ready to Rumble guy.
That's a great one. But he's not retired.
He's retired from wrestling.
But he's still doing the job.
Not the wrestling.
But, okay. I mean, he still does what he was doing in wrestling. But I guess if it's not, I mean, it's not for wrestling, so I guess it wouldn't fall into a wrestling Hall of Fame. So, yeah. That works. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill everybody. I just threw me off because the
No, it's okay. I'm curious, so I'm looking it up. I'm looking up when the last time that he has done it notably. Because goodness. Anyway, I'm not supposed to talk about things unless asked.
Well, I mean, yeah. I guess that's how this works. There, yeah. Okay. So he is good though. He checks out with your clickety-clacks.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
Or at least he does for my purposes, both as the wrestling purpose and even looking further back. He's definitely a retired boy, just showing up once a year to do it. Something like that.
I guess as someone who follows sports, I feel like I see him quite often, but I don't know how to find a list of every event he's ever done. He still has a booking website of you can book me.
He does, yeah. The biggest one that I see is that he did University of Kentucky versus University of Kansas, the Blue Blood rivalry. On Saturday, January 28th, he announced his trademarked line for that basketball game.
Yeah,
and that was the last one.
I remember that one.
Oh, and then October 14th would be the one before that, another University of Kentucky one. But instead of "Let's Get Ready to Rumble," he announced "Let's Get Ready to Round Ball."
My man.
Yeah, he is a yeah.
Not that time flies, but I was going to say, didn't he have to step down because of cancer? But then
he did. He beat cancer in 2008.
Yeah, apparently he's been in remission for like nearly a decade. So, oh right, I wasn't paying. Time is really flowing past there.
Yeah, he's essentially now a retired nostalgia act. He shows up sporadically to do it once and then heads off again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess since we're already talking about yours, we want to run through the rest of yours. Is that how this works?
Sure. Nick Patrick and Michael Buffer are my two boys. Since Mean Gene is in.
Well, I know that my favorite out of those two is Nick Patrick. So let's see what kind of questions I can ask about Michael Buffer. That we haven't just discussed. Did he ever... He did WWE shows before, too, right? I know he was like the voice of WCW main events. Did he do WWF?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he has shown up like once or twice. On August 18th, 2007 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, for the first time in more than 6 years, Buffer returned to pro wrestling. So I guess not. I guess he hadn't done WWF. He appeared in a commercial,
He did
2008
He
commercial.
did 2008 Royal Rumble,
Yeah, so he's part of the
Oh, yeah,
2008
where he
because he was done with the cancer.
he,
He was done with it.
he calls Shawn Michaels a heartbreak kid in his imitable voice. Um,
Do you have any questions about Nick Patrick there, Michael?
um, well, I had one, but it sounded mean. I'm trying to.
You can be mean.
Um, okay, what makes Nick Patrick unsung?
Nick Patrick is unsung one because doesn't have any general awards for refereeing in the general sense. But beyond that, when I was looking up Nick Patrick last week to talk about the Nick Patrick biopic, apparently there is a large internet from the internet fan group, the internet community, of this huge dislike or a negative response to Nick Patrick and his work in wrestling. Which is so odd to me because even though in the WWF he was a right down the middle referee, he was the head referee for SmackDown for a long time. He was an incredible character as well as great just referee that helped make matches feel bigger in WCW. And I think that in general, people don't look at referees as like, you did a great job there, ref. They think of them as like, I don't know, the paint on the wall. They are there because they're supposed to be there, and that's the end. And I think that Nick Patrick stands out for me as the best version of the referee in wrestling. He had a little bit of character. He always did his job, and I never felt like he stole the show. Not like Earl Hebner. I felt like he stole the show a lot. He made the matches be about how he sold and how big and over the top he was. And I never felt that from Nick Patrick.
I find it really kind of funny that you're referring to there how he called stuff in the middle, etc. and that. Given that my biggest memories of Nick Patrick were his 2 heel runs, when he was the NWO's referee in WCW, and then he was Evil Alliance referee during the Invasion angle.
Yeah, absolutely, great character stuff.
To be fair, if you've ever seen that match he had on pay-per-view with Errol Hebner, far better than it ought to be. Who you thinking here, Lanny?
Well, although I really, really like Nick Patrick, he's not my favorite referee of all time. But my favorite referee of all time is still active. Some of my favorite referees of all time are still active, so I couldn't put them on here. But man, Michael Buffer, he was everything of WCW. Man, he made everything feel huge. Like, I feel like a dingus ass for not thinking of him. So I go with Michael Buffer.
Well,
that's my vote.
See, it's really difficult because neither of them really jumped to me as an immediate Hall of Famer.
I think they are both legitimate Hall of Famers. Couldn't disagree more. I'm just saying out of the two.
But I guess Michael Buffer.
That's the spirit.
Oh, when I have less painkillers in my system, I tend to be far less of an arsehole. But no.
Hey, it's all right. That's why I wanted to do this round in particular, because it's people we don't normally talk about, and I do legitimately think all 3 of these guys are Hall of Fame worthy. That's the point, and that's that's why we're talking here about it. I think that's
I
cool.
was convinced that Lenny would go for Patrick there, given he's on his own ballot.
Yeah, but I'm like you, where I had a really, really hard time thinking of names.
Yeah.
So it's more so the fact that, if I would have thought of Buffer, he would have been on mine.
Well, fair enough. Buffer it is.
Let's ask Michael, because I gotta ask Michael a lot of questions. I don't actually know his other two.
Me
Do you, Lenny?
either. No.
I have heard the name Tootsmond before, but I don't know Chris Christie in any way. That's the governor of New Jersey?
No.
That's all I got.
No.
Yeah, it's a different Chris Christie, I know.
Kresge,
But yeah, I have no
not
clue who
Christie.
they are. Huh?
Kresge, not
Key.
Christie. Completely different.
They sound the same to me, but why don't you tell me the difference?
Yeah, I'm not gonna look these people up at all. It's all you, Michael.
Oh, joy. Well, Chris Kresge, which is Kreski. He was an American screenwriter. He used to do a bunch of stuff for MTV and I think Saturday Night Live. A whole bunch of stuff like he did some of the writing for Celebrity Deathmatch, which was a fun show from the 90s. But when Vince Russo left, they poached him to be the new head writer for WWE, and he was a head writer for WWE from 1999, October 99 to October 2000. And what he did was he brought storyboarding and sort of how to write storylines from TV into pro wrestling, which got him a lot of stick because he'd have all these storyboards and go, and this is how the storyline's going to work, and this is how we multi-layer it all. But what he actually did was help bring in their best year creatively and profitably to that point. He is essentially the creative mind behind the rise of Kurt Angle, the Radicals returning, Mick Foley's commissioner, and most famously the Kurt Angle, Stephanie, Triple H love triangle. And the reason that kind of all fell apart at the end is because they tried to end it after he got removed from the job because they put Stephanie in. So he was essentially the largest part of their most profitable era to that point that nobody remembers. And he can't talk about it anymore because he actually died of cancer a number of years ago, before sort of the whole behind the scenes stuff became big in fandom. So yeah, that's good.
Why do you get let go?
Because they wanted Stephanie to have his job. He was quite well thought of, but he wasn't a McMahon. you can't, there's a slight issue there with the whole Vince side, pushing his children, but and he is undersung if neither of you two have heard of him, and
He definitely falls into the unsung hero category.
yeah, I mean, like folk like Jericho and Mick Foley say that he was heavily responsible for a lot of their best work at the time. So
That's what I was about to ask is, where does the source of him being responsible for all this come from?
like Foley, Jericho, his name comes up a lot of time in like shoot interviews from the time. That's how I first heard of it, and
Okay.
so remember, like I can't remember who it was, like the Austin show or somebody said about Chris Kresge and how great he was, and it was a shame he died, so I had to Google him. I was like, oh right, I had never realised this was all one person at the time. So yeah, that's how I started looking him up. Podcast, somebody ex-wrestler mentioning him in a podcast.
And tell us about Tootsmond.
Toots.
Tootsmond is one of the Goldust Trio who started pro wrestling essentially in America. He, along with Ed Lewis, he promoted wrestling on a long, sort of large basis throughout the 1920s and 30s, pushing out the Straggler Lewis title matches. He also worked with bringing up a young chap at the time called Lou Fez. He was one of the people who got Madison Square Garden's bookings originally. He promoted Gorgeous George, which helped push Muhammad Ali and a whole bunch of stuff. But he's also known for having worked with Vince McMahon Sr. And Jess McMahon to create a wrestling company which became the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or as we know it today, the WWE. He's kind of been forgotten by history, but essentially none of us would be watching wrestling without him. Essentially.
Well, if that's true, then that's the guy I want in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that. I'm with you, Lenny.
It's just so hard when I know absolutely nothing about. Like, I can't form my own opinion on if I believe that's true or not. But basing off the two things you've said about them, I will go with the guy who made it where I could watch wrestling. Not the guy who made the early parts of 2000 okay. Because, I mean, it was all right, but...
Yeah, my favorite era of WWF is just a little after that, so...
The John Cena era.
No, that's too far.
The JBL era.
Paul Heyman booked SmackDown era would be my favorite. So yeah, let's officially, we got Toots Mont going in.
Now I can Google him. Now I'll look him up. And then I'll disagree.
I mean, his last big thing in wrestling was to convince Vince Sr. to build the WWF around Bruno Sammartino. So, but he had a falling of the ways with Vince, and he died in the 70s, and he only went into the WWE Hall of Fame this year as part of their legacy group. When, you think he should have been in years earlier.
Well, I'm glad he's in.
But he had a gambling problem, says Wikipedia. No, that's fine. He can have a gambling problem. Gambling on World Wrestling Federation, and it pays off.
It does. All right, Lenny. We have the person responsible for costuming the golden era of wrestling.
Which might not even be one person. It may have gone through like 4. Who knows?
Yeah, everyone could have had their own individual person. Who knows?
I don't know. Sorry, guys.
And Nick Patrick.
Which we've talked about Nick Patrick. So, who are you guys voting for? The designer of Brutus the Barber Beefcake's amazing outfits.
Well, you're definitely not selling me with that one.
I'm looking at an article of the 50 best costumes from the Golden Era, and I'm just like frothing over here. Frothing.
Because you don't agree with them?
Wait, isn't frothing like... Maybe that's not the word I'm looking for. I don't know where
frothing tends to be negative.
Oh, I guess I'm... Well, it's now every other word I can think of is like very perverted, so I can't think of any other word besides frothing and like stuff about ejaculation, so I guess I'm frothing.
You could be chomping at the bit. That's a positive.
Chomping at the bit of froth. I mean, just look how cool the Nasty Boys looked. Oh my god. Damn.
Again, I did not think they looked cool.
Well, I know where this vote's going. What about the Killer Bees? They had black and white stripes on their face and on their trunks. That's cool. You guys are crazy.
I really am trying to find. I want to see if I can find. See if I can find her.
They talk. Everything I search just brings up about Sandra Gray, who didn't start till the '90s, and that's or like the late '90s. And
Yeah, and Makazi is currently the Sasha Banks' husband is the current head seamstress.
None of that works because the Attitude Era attire is the worst.
Oh, here we go. It's more than likely Julie Youngberg. Julie Youngberg has been a WWE employee since 1989 and made countless outfits since then. So if you're looking for a seamstress since the golden era, 1989.
But is she still with the WWE?
Oh, she might be.
Oh, she can't still be a seamstress though, because we know who the seamstresses are.
She might not be a head seamstress.
Dang it!
She's married to Shannon Moore, by the way.
How can the woman that was making costumes in the 80s be married to baby boy Shannon Moore? Although my wife is 10 years older than me, so...
No, she is still currently a WWE costume designer and seamstress. So regardless, she is not... she is out.
Man, that is...
If she is the right person. She's the oldest one I can find.
It might not be the right person, but I guess... I mean, I'm not seeing the stuff you're seeing when I'm looking it up. I can't find anything.
She was once married to Droz. They divorced, and then she married Shannon Moore.
She's getting it. Getting that mediocre wrestler, D.
Longtime WWE seamstress Julie Youngberg.
I mean, that's a long time.
That is. Employee since 89.
Yeesh. I mean, that would put it around the time that things started getting how I like it.
Yep.
So, if she was doing it, all right, well, it takes her out of the running. And Vince Russo still writes for wrestling, so he's out of the running.
I think I've got a find here. Talk to yourselves for about 30 seconds.
Sure.
Talk to ourselves. That's what we've been doing.
Just you and me.
Continue.
How are you feeling?
Continue doing that. Is this part of the episode?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh,
probably not.
I'm feeling fine. I'm stressed that Julie Youngberg still has a job. Somebody needs to fire her. God dang it. Just right quick. Fire her until we're done recording, and then hire her back.
Yeah, the retirement rule definitely made this one harder than it probably needed to be.
But I had a good idea there with it.
You did. You really did.
I couldn't figure it out.
Because I definitely get where you're coming from.
Except for you disagreed with all the costumes I specifically pointed out.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Personal taste aside, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Me not liking it doesn't mean it's not important.
I know you like the way the Ultimate Warrior looks.
I do indeed. He looks great. Randy Savage looks great. Ted DiBiase, if she made his diamond suit...
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks great. It looks like she made it. Based on everything I know about her, yeah.
Okay, it might not answer your thing, but I have found out who made Randy Savage's WWF clothes.
Oh, who's that?
Michael Braun, who's apparently well known for kind of clothing design, and he's the same guy who did the clothes for Jimi Hendrix, apparently.
So it might be one of those situations where several people went around. Like I was reading the story of how we just talking about Sharon Gray, is that her name? The other seamstress that retired, I think that was her name. And she said that Mark Marrow just walked into her office one day and was like, "Oh yeah, I need a costume for wrestling." So people were around that time, I guess people were just walking around and asking whoever.
Yeah, there are people who have their own. Personal seamsters. Yeah, no, Michael Braun, he did Randy Savage, the Macho Man's.
Maybe Lenny's pick is all of the seamstress and designers then. It's sort of
every retired seamstress. That's right. I stand with all retired seamstresses.
Yeah.
So, how you guys feel about Nick Patrick? My only remaining nominee.
I kind of want to put in Julie Youngberg, even though she's not retired. I want to waive that rule because I think it's so cool to have found that information.
Does she have a Twitter? We could,
Yeah, she does.
Tweet her, and I can tweet her and see if she responds by, later. See, so we can have if she says that she's retired, we put her in there. If she doesn't, we put in Nick Patrick. She probably won't respond to me, but I've had Charles Robinson respond to me once.
There we go. I sent you a link in the call.
All right, I'll try that.
I kind of want to. Like, as much as I love Nick Patrick, I kind of think it would be awesome to waive the retired rule for her, because she clearly has done a lot of great wrestling gear. The ones that are referenced specifically by her are a lot of the great women's gear of recent eras. The non NXT women, she did a lot of Natalia's gear. She's done some of Becky Lynch's gear recently. She's done clearly she did the Shannon Moore stuff, and she might have helped with the Headbangers.
She's definitely not retired though.
She's definitely not retired.
Yeah, we would have to waive it. So it's up to you. This is your thing. This is your.
What do you think, Michael?
I was looking her up there, and the most I can find is that she's been working there since 2009. But that's news sites for you, and as we've worked out here, it's hard to find out stuff about half these people.
She wouldn't have met Shannon Moore in 2009, though.
Well,
she joined Twitter in 2009.
Yeah, that's what I see that she joined. 2009.
But then if she was if she was Droz, I'm confused.
She's pretty. She's a pretty lady.
I want to follow her regardless.
She's got some really cute puppies. Not like dog puppies, not go to hell Jerry Lawler puppies.
Who did?
And here's another seamstress from the WWE.
Sorry?
No.
She married Droz, and she was working for them then, so she clearly didn't just join them in 2009.
She's uploaded a picture of Brett and Anvil Neidhart in their costumes. She uploaded this a while back with the Flashback Friday hashtag, talking about how this is something that her and her friend did together. So she's obviously the person I was looking for.
Oh yeah, her friend is Terry Anderson, the other person I was just looking at.
It says oh, go ahead.
Oh, it is the second thing they did.
Yep. That's
what the second thing that Terry Anderson and Julie Youngberg did was the Hart Foundation jackets, the Sgt. Pepper outfit.
And the next picture says her first official ones ever were the Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty outfits, and it's beautiful. They look so pretty. She's great. Oh, I love this woman.
Oh man, Survivor Series '94, Bob Spark Plug Holly.
Oh, I love her. I'm all about waiving the rule for her, but
because she says she worked together with Terry Anderson, and I can vouch for that on her Twitter. I say we put them both in.
Oh.
I say we put the two of them in together for having created so many of the new generation iconic ones and up into the Attitude Era ones, and for working so hard. That's where my vote would be, that we get both of them in, because they are truly unsung heroes and are exactly... looking all them up is really enjoyable for me, and I'd put them in. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah. I took Lenny's as to be them in general, so if you two want to put specific ones in, I will agree with it.
Yeah, sorry Nick Patrick, I love you, but we found two really cool women that we can confirm to be awesome WWE seamstresses with actual pictures of their work, so we absolutely want to support them. So yeah, I'm all for it. For the first time, we have 5 entries into our Hall of Fame. Mean Gene Okerlund, Michael Buffer, Toots Mondt, Julie Youngberg, and Terry Anderson. Unsung heroes of wrestling. I love it. That's exciting.
That went better than I expected.
I enjoyed the research as a group. That was fun.
That was fun. Since it paid off. If we would have done all the research and it not have paid off at all, that would have been awful.
Well, see, then I could have just edited it out. It didn't matter. But now I'm going to have to keep, like, a whole bunch of it in.
Yeah, but it's cool, because the people listening didn't know that was going to happen. Now you guys know.
Yeah. And we are now following both of them on Twitter. Because that's wonderful.
That makes me happy.
That's going to do it for us. We had a cool up and down crazy episode, but I hope you guys enjoyed. We gave you a lot of stuff to look up, a bunch of matches, a bunch of pay-per-views, and a bunch of careers to take a look at, and that's really cool. Let us know who you think are some unsung heroes in the comments, or don't. Do whatever you want. I'm not your mom. I can't tell you what to do. You guys have anything else you want to say before we get out of here? All right, well then I guess it's just time to say bye-bye.
Bye.